Welcome to the first Masterclass snapshot for Startup Gippsland. So these snapshots will be a quick 2-minute summary of the Masterclasses for the 12-week program so that you can learn about everything you need to get your business started and to grow to a national or international level. So in this first week, we wanted to really talk first about myth busting of what an entrepreneur actually is. So often when you're thinking about an entrepreneur, you can conjure up images of somebody wearing a hoodie and Converse, playing ping pong or sitting in a beanbag, but this couldn't actually be further from the truth. So the first point that I wanted to make about entrepreneurs being this kind of myth is that they're the smartest people in the room. And this isn't actually true. So they are smart, but in the terms of they know where their weaknesses are and they know what their strengths are. And they surround themselves by people who can actually fill their gaps or their weaknesses. The second is that they're individualists. So again, this is really not the case. To be a successful entrepreneur, you actually need to be in a team. So what research has actually shown is that the more co-founders you have, the more likely you are to actually be a successful startup, up until about 4 co-founders. Another one is that entrepreneurs are born, not made. And again, this couldn't be further from the truth. Research has been shown that the more times you try to start a business, the more likely you are to be successful. So this shows that there are entrepreneurship skills that can actually be learned over time. The next one is undisciplined, and this is probably one that is the furthest from the truth. So often when people think of entrepreneurs, you think about sleeping in the morning, talking with friends, just hanging out, being your own boss, not having to answer to anybody. But this is really where a lot of potential entrepreneurs go wrong, thinking that it's going to be a much easier way of working. If you're an entrepreneur, you have to be so disciplined because there aren't people around you or a boss on top of you making sure that you get to work on time, making sure that you complete things when you say you're going to, making sure you meet deadlines to the quality that you're expected to. This all has to come from within. The last one is that entrepreneurs are risk takers. And again, this is not right. So entrepreneurs do take risks, but they take really calculated risks because they actually have more to lose than big businesses. So where big businesses have a lot of resources, effort and people up their sleeves if things do go wrong, often making a mistake as an entrepreneur can be your complete undoing. So what are some attributes of a successful startup? The first is that it solves a problem. So all successful startups, some have identified a particular customer segment or a particular group of customers and solves a problem for them. The bigger the problem, the more likely people are to buy your product or service. The second is that customers love you. Now this is a bit deeper than what it might look like, but this means that it's actually better to have a few customers who absolutely love you to pieces or rave about you to all of their friends than it is to have a lot of customers who like you, because the best type of marketing is through word of mouth. Another one is that a successful startup is on trend. So this means that you can forecast or see the consumer trends coming towards you, and you are on the money at the right time. So you're just ahead of that curve to ride it when it comes through. You're not too far ahead where people don't understand the trend, and you're not following a trend trying to rush up from behind. The last one is speed of learning. So often people think of just speed for a startup to be successful, but it's not about speed of executing, because that could actually be unnecessary risks that you're taking. It's about how quickly you can learn from your customers, change your product or service to better suit their need, and keep going. So thinking about this, what are some common pitfalls for startups? The first is not understanding the competitive landscape. And this is something that almost all entrepreneurs fall victim to. It's something that you'll see your product or service as being of a much higher quality than what's already out there, but you still need to understand what's out there, what people like about it and what people don't like, so that you can make sure that you're taking all things into consideration and not going into the dark. Waiting for perfection. This is something that is very, very hard to do, a lot easier said than done. But often if you've been thinking about your product or service for years, you want to make sure that it's absolutely perfect before you put it out in the market. This is actually a really bad way of starting a business. You should be getting out in front of customers as quickly as you possibly can with something really scrappy, half put together, to get feedback there and then so you can change it to be better. Another one is using vanity metrics. And so if you're measuring your business's success by things such as website hits or Facebook likes, this is something that we call vanity metrics. They're metrics that look good, but don't actually really help you make proper business decisions. So for example, you could have 1,000 website hits a week, but no one actually buying anything. If you're not measuring the actual buying power of people, then you're putting yourself at a greater risk. The last one is getting too attached to your idea. So again, if you've been thinking about your business for a long time and you really love the idea, you believe in it, if you get bad customer feedback or customers saying they don't particularly like your product or service, it can be really hard to take that on board. But if you fall in love with the problem that you're trying to solve as opposed to the idea, you'll make sure that you're always on the mark in terms of what your customers are demanding. So that's it for week 1's masterclass. Hopefully you got a lot out of that, and I'll see you next week for week 2.